In 1914, the world thought it had figured everything out. Electric lights, fast trains, global trade. People dressed sharp, talked progress, and believed war was outdated. That confidence? It was the real ticking bomb. Because beneath the polished surface, Europe was stacked with grudges, alliances, and weapons built for a fight no one knew how to stop. And all it took was one wrong turn in an open-top car. Welcome to Capital Misfires. I'm Jimmy, and this is how the modern world accidentally set itself on fire. If you like stories where bad incentives quietly spiral into disaster, you're in the right place. By 1914, everyone felt a major war coming, even if no one admitted it out loud. France still wanted territory Germany had taken decades earlier. Germany wanted more influence, more land, and a navy big enough to make Britain nervous. Britain, meanwhile, was watching this rise like, yeah, no way that ends well. On paper, these empires looked powerful. In reality, they were fragile. Inside Austria-Hungary, entire ethnic groups hated being ruled from Vienna. Serbs and Bosnians wanted independence, and Russia quietly encouraged that dream. Everyone was smiling at diplomatic dinners while sharpening knives under the table. Add one more ingredient: military technology had sprinted ahead, but military thinking hadn't. Generals were still planning wars like it was the 1800s, marching formations, bright uniforms, glory charges, except now the weapons could erase entire units in minutes. Then came the spark. In June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary visited Sarajevo. The route of his open-top car? Published in advance. Several assassins waited. A bomb was thrown. It missed and exploded behind him instead, injuring officers. At this point, history could have taken a breath. It didn't. Instead of leaving the city, the Archduke went back out, same car, to visit the wounded. His driver took a wrong turn. The car stalled, and by pure coincidence, it stopped right beside one of the failed assassins. One shot, then another. Austria-Hungary was furious and convinced Serbia was involved. They went to Germany for support. Germany said yes. Austria-Hungary sent Serbia a list of demands designed to be rejected. Serbia refused some of them. War was declared. Now the dominoes fell fast. Russia mobilized to protect Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia. France backed Russia. Germany declared war on France. Britain hesitated, briefly. Germany had a plan. Russia was massive and slow to mobilize, so Germany would crush France first, fast, then turn east. Problem? France had strong defenses on the German border. Solution? Go around them. Through Belgium. Belgium was neutral. Germany expected them to step aside. Belgium didn't. That resistance slowed Germany down and triggered Britain's entry into the war. What was supposed to be a quick, controlled strike was already unraveling. If you're still with me, hit subscribe, because we'll watch confidence collide with reality and see how this short war turns into a grinding nightmare no one can stop. By late 1914, every major power thought the same thing. This will be over by Christmas. They were wrong in the most brutal way possible. Germany pushed hard through Belgium, forcing its way forward mile by mile. Along the route, German troops committed atrocities against civilians, executions, destroyed towns, mass arrests. Word spread fast. And this mattered, because while Europe was fighting, the world was watching, especially the United States. American newspapers ran graphic stories. British propaganda went into overdrive, and Germany didn't help its image by marching through neutral countries wearing spiked helmets and skull insignia. If the goal was not to look like the villain, yeah, rough execution. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the war exposed a deadly mismatch, 20th century weapons being used with 19th century thinking. Take France. French soldiers marched into combat wearing bright blue jackets and red trousers, uniforms designed for pride, not survival. They advanced in tight formations, flags up, officers clearly visible. German artillery didn't care about tradition. Entire columns were shredded before they ever reached the enemy. Machine guns turned open fields into kill zones. Every army learned the same lesson the hard way. Old-school tactics were suicidal, but adaptation took time, and time meant bodies. While Germany pushed west, something unexpected happened in the east. Russia mobilized far faster than anyone predicted. Germany had assumed it had weeks, maybe months before Russia could fight. Instead, Russian armies were already moving. Germany panicked and pulled troops from the Western Front to stabilize the east. Austria-Hungary was supposed to handle Russia's ally, Serbia. They didn't. Despite being smaller and weaker on paper, Serbia repelled multiple invasions. Austria-Hungary ignored German advice, stumbled through bad planning, then ran back to Germany for help when things collapsed. Germany did manage one major success. In northern battles, they nearly annihilated Russia's Second Army. But that victory came at a cost. Resources and attention pulled away from France. Back in the west, German troops were approaching Paris. From the outside, it looked like the plan might still work. Then came the moment everything changed. The French High Command made a risky decision. Stop retreating. Turn around. Fight. During the clash, a gap opened in the German lines, a dangerous mistake. The Allies rushed into it, threatening to surround German forces. Germany had no choice. They pulled back. The Allies counterattacked. Germany dug in. Then the Allies dug in too. Both sides tried racing north to outflank each other, a deadly game of leapfrog. Eventually, they hit the sea. And there, the movement stopped. From the Belgian coast to the Swiss border, Europe froze into lines of trenches. This wasn't part of anyone's plan. It wasn't heroic, it wasn't fast, and it definitely wasn't modern. It was a grinding stalemate, the kind where victory meant gaining meters, not miles. If this already feels less like a war and more like a machine chewing people up, you're seeing it clearly. Because we're going into the trenches, where strategy breaks down, human endurance is tested, and the true cost of this misfire becomes impossible to ignore. Stay with me. By 1915, the war had stopped moving, not because both sides wanted peace, but because movement had become suicide. Welcome to trench warfare. Two massive trench systems faced each other across strips of land called no man's land. Sometimes it was 30 yards wide, sometimes 300. Every inch was pre-measured, every approach was mapped, every advance was expected. And still, commanders kept ordering men over the top. Here's how an attack usually worked. First came artillery. Hundreds of thousands of shells fired over days, sometimes weeks. The goal was simple: break the enemy's defenses and morale. The result? Cratered mud, destroyed terrain, and soldiers so traumatized they shook uncontrollably, what we now call shell shock. Then the infantry went in. Soldiers climbed out of the trenches and charged across open ground, carrying 60 to 80 pounds of gear. They moved through mud thick enough to trap boots, sometimes entire bodies. Machine guns waited. Defenders didn't need to aim carefully. They swept fire across predictable paths. Entire waves were cut down in minutes. If the attackers reached the enemy trench, fighting turned savage. Rifles used as clubs, bayonets, bare hands. After all that, maybe a few hundred meters gained, sometimes less. Months of fighting could end with the front line barely moving at all. Living conditions were just as brutal. Trenches flooded constantly, water mixed with human waste, rotting corpses, and chemicals. Rats grew fat feeding on the dead. Lice spread disease. The smell never left. Soldiers slept sitting up, if they slept at all. And this wasn't happening for days or weeks. It went on for years. Millions of men endured this, while generals miles away studied maps and casualty tables. What made it worse was the illusion. Every new offensive was sold as the breakthrough, the one that would finally end the war. It never did. The battlefields became a system, a factory converting manpower into casualties, and the world started to realize it. Back home, civilians faced rationing, labor shortages, and constant loss. An entire generation was being fed into the trenches. Even neutral countries couldn't ignore it anymore. In the United States, President Woodrow Wilson still tried to stay out, preaching peace, mediation, restraint. But public opinion was shifting. Reports from Europe made the war impossible to romanticize. This wasn't glory, it was industrialized destruction. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This war wasn't being driven by hatred alone. It was being sustained by momentum. Alliances locked nations in. Mobilization made stopping politically impossible. No leader wanted to admit the cost had outweighed the cause, so they kept going. If you're starting to feel like no one was really in control anymore, you're right. In the final moments of this story, we'll talk about why the system couldn't stop itself and how this failure reshaped the entire 20th century. This is Capital Misfires. I'm Jimmy, and this is what happens when modern power meets outdated thinking.